My name is Maximilian from the Red Foundry forum, and I'll be showing you how to code some RFML today. We'll be building the advanced RSS reader, which is actually a rather limited featured RSS reader, and it will get you through some basic concepts of how to code an RFML. You can download all the graphic assets used in the tutorial, or in the screencast rather, here. And what will not be included is the top bar image, which you'll have to download from this address here. It's located in the advanced RSS reader code sharing section as well. So first thing, we'll navigate to our builder, and I won't be using the designer view, nor will I be using any widgets or elements that have been predefined, just to get the basic point across. And as you can see, I'm not working in the main view, which is called RFApp config. There, the user would normally interface with this view first, but as I'm coding a couple of things here, I'll be navigating to this separate view here. To navigate, simple navigation is creating a button and assigning the navigate action to the button. Once the user touches the button here, he is navigated to tutorial.xml. You create those XML files by clicking up here and say test.xml. And .xml is really important here because otherwise it won't work. Also, be sure to have the right kind of capitalization on every path you define in your RFML coding, because this is crucial. So the navigation stack type determines if the whole view is reloaded, if it's popped, if it's pushed, and the navigation transition shows the user and a certain kind of animation once the button is pressed. So I've chosen flip left, but you can also have sliding and also fading in different directions. And yes, so once the user presses the yes button, he's navigated to my tutorial. But before I am committing to this navigation, I'll be heading over to tutorial, which I've not created it, so I've deleted it just now. Tutorial.xml. Crucial. Strange. Reload the view. Here we go. Tutorial. So, since I've already had a go at this, I have deleted the top padding 52 and set it back to 0. First thing I'll be starting off with, and bear in mind this is live and I'll not be putting any cuts in there, since it's pretty hard to do with the screen recorder. I will make some mistakes, and I'll also do some trial and error coding, which is pretty fast actually to do with. If you have, and if I'll show you a few tips on how to do this. So first things first, we'll be defining a top bar, which is where the user usually puts, where the view is usually titled in. So the top bar in the tutorial is this blue top bar here, and it looks like this, the design observer. So let's head over to the builder. First thing, define a layout widget. The property of this layout widget will mean that the width, since it takes up the whole width of the screen, the top bar, and the height is 40. I like 40 since it usually is 40 in other iOS apps as well. So we want to have this widget float above everything else, so we are defining layout type as float. So, and as you can see here, the vertical alignment is top, the usual value, and the horizontal alignment is center, which defines the alignment of your widget. But since you're coding the width in 100%, the horizontal alignment doesn't matter that much. So let's create a sub-widget, which we have to code inside those widget brackets. Layout widgets, and then we'll be using this to create the background image. Property, image, and now we'll define the path to the blue background. So resources slash top bar underscore bg.png, and be sure to have the right kind of capitalization here as well. This could cause some strange errors in ad hoc builds. So we would want to have the width as 100%, and the height, we'll not be using the normal height, we'll only be using the max height as 100%. Also, we'll be using allow stretch, since this will stretch the image to our tab bar width. You'll see here that the height is 88 pixels and the width is only 26 pixels, but this is all we need if we stretch the image, and we'll cramp it in those 40 pixels by setting the max height to the 100% of 40. So we'll save that by using Command S, and we'll define an action here that will navigate and touch to our view here. XML tutorial.xml in navigation stack type. We want to force the view to reload every piece of code here, and that's defined by replace. So we have that, and we'll also be setting, I've got this, the layout type on this background to absolute, so it's behind everything else. Let's see if we've made any progress. Yes, I want to navigate to this view, and as you can see, the top bar is here. It looks good, and once I press here, it navigates and reloads the whole view. So this is to prevent any viz reloading, and this will save you a lot of time with coding. But as you can see, the whole background is black. So let's change the background to white. So we'll define it inside under the view tag, background color, here it is, and you'll see the default value is 0000. White is FFF. Okay, reload the view. There you have it. Standard top bar. So now I'll be creating a title for this view, and it's using the text. Name, float, layer type, load. Since we want it above everything else, we'd want the property horizontal alignment to be in the middle, so in the center, and we want the vertical alignment to be in the middle, so you have it dead centered in the middle. You'd want the color of the text to be black or white. I guess it's normal that it's defined by Apple that the text is a kind of white with a black shadow, but here I've coded it white, so I'll keep white as well. So let's go back here to my builder. And I'll be adding the font, which will use Helvetica. Bold. And the font size is 18, I think, I don't know for sure. And the text is RSS reader. And we'll change it afterwards with the right navigation. So let's reload the view. So we've got RSS reader here. Pretty straightforward at the moment. So let's start by introducing the concept of a data source. A data source is used to import some RSS data or XML, JSON data from the web, and it will make it easier for other widgets to access this data when you have defined a central point for it. So you'll define the data source within the view, and we'll use an XML data provider. And the property we'll set is data location, which you would use if the data is coming from a URL, which it usually does in our RSS reader app. And the feed I've chosen to use in my tutorial is called the observer. As you can see, the format is XML here as well, and it's really important that you define XML in this feed burner URL, since this will make it a lot easier and to see where everything is linked up to. I'll load it here in the browser just so you can see how it looks like. And FeedBurner has this feature where it overlays a view or some code that will create an HTML view and looks like a normal web page. But if you check out the source, you see that this is an XML file with the channel, description, link, and the individual RSS items here. So what we'll do is allow the view, the app to cache the downloaded content, since this will enable users to read articles offline. We'll also be adding autoload. Yes, so that's defined by the RFML as standard, and we'll also hide the activity indicator, the standard activity indicator. So if we do that, and let's give our data source a name. ID equals, that's how you give data source a name, RSS data. and we'll not be defining any actions for now, but this is for the repeater widget to interface with the data. So if you reload this now, the RSS data will be downloaded in the background, and you'll not see any changes at the moment. So this is pretty standard. Let's start off by creating an RSS. So the item widget that is interfacing with the RSS is called repeater widget, or repeater. And this goes through each individual item, and it will display all of the contents of the data source. So we'll be creating that below the layout widget and calling it repeater. Since we'd and this is a rather simple way to do it, since we are showing, so as you can see, we're showing a top bar here. This top bar is standard and the user likes to see this top bar here, and it's 20 pixels high, and the bar down here is 40 pixels high, or points rather. So all in all, the top section of our app takes up 60 pixels. Since we want to code the app both in landscape and in portrait, we want to have a programmatic way of determining the height of the repeater widget. So let's start off by defining the height, which is, and this is a JavaScript which you can calculate how high the app should be. So app screen height, and you want to subtract the 60 pixels we already have. So it's 60 pixels high. And we want to define that the layout type is also float, and we want to define the width as being 100%. We also like to conserve memory, so we will not animate new rows, no, and we'll have to set the top position to 40, or no, I don't know, 60 or 40. I suspect it's 40. Let's assign, to debug this easily without using layout debug, set the background color of the item to black. Now this is, as you can see, this is 8 digits long, and the last 2 digits means that its alpha is 00, so it won't be displayed. So if you have 6 and 00000, you'll have a black background. So let's reload this. Here, as you can see, all of our view is covered, and it was 40. So we're counting from up here. We're floating the widget 40 down, and the width 100%. So it's from here to here, and the screen height minus the 60 up here, and we'll have the area down here to cover with our data. So let's create the interface with the data location, data provider. So I'm not sure which one of those it is, but it's really handy. So what you do is row data ID, see, and then you use RSS data, the ID we've defined up here. And now we are navigating to each individual view, which is row data path. And since RSS layout is universal, you can see here, we'll start off with RSS up here is the first one, then channel, and then item. So to navigate to an item, to get an item, you have to go to RSS, channel, item. So it's RSS, channel, item. Save this up here and delete the background color. Reload this view. And as you can see, there's a scroll bar up here. It would be easier, and you can see that it works perfect with how we defined our view. Let's see if it's down here as well. Yeah, so it stops here and finishes or starts up here. So let's define how the rows are separated. So separator color is set to invisible, but let's choose a shade of gray. I like to choose rather light color, so 999. So let's reload this view here as well. And as you can see, now we've got this empty cells here. The height of one cell is defined by item height, which I have not defined yet, but let's do it now. Height of one cell is about 100 points. So let's create a title in those views, which will start same as the layout with widgets, text, property, name, title, text, and how do we get the headline of each individual item to the title. So the thing is, once you define this path, everything you define down here inside those widget brackets becomes relative. So let's use a short code here, and then data, row, and we want to use the title here. Let's see if it's a really simple example. Let's see if it works. No, not really. Not really. It seems to fade here. I have no idea why. So, two things. Let's define the color as free, a shade of a dark, really dark gray. Here, height. I didn't set item height. This is the mistake I made. And turn off fade rows. Also, this will improve performance of your app. So let's reload this here again. As you can see, we filled the widget up with a title. Since the title is a bit too large for our liking, let's put some padding in there. So how do we do padding? It's rather straightforward. Give it a name, padding 10. So let's reload this, 10. It's good, but there is a big but. We don't actually want to navigate to a different view whilst reading the RSS feed. So what we'll be doing is we'll create a slidable view, not a vertical one, but a horizontal one. So you can navigate to each individual item and you can assign the appropriate height and width to every article content. And this allows for more flexibility and a cleaner design. So what we'll do is we'll have the item height set to 100%, and the orientation of the repeater widget should be horizontal. So once you do that and set the separator color to a lighter shade of gray, you will see that you can navigate through each individual one here as well. But that's no good, since as you can see it doesn't quite feel right because of the constant flow. It should actually snap into one article at a time. So what we'll do is we'll enable a property called paging. Enable paging. Yes, and we'll disallow the paging to show those little dots you see on the show page indicator shows. We don't want that, since this will show the white dots like you see on the iPhone home screen. So as you can see, you can navigate through the view like so, and it snaps into each individual contents here. So what we'll be doing is we'll be creating a different font here, Helvetica, bold, since it's the title, 16, have it smaller than the, or 17, have it smaller than the view up here, the title up here, still have it big, as so you can read it, so it's easier, so it catches the eye. So this is a good start, and now let's create a text view down here where the article content is. So let's copy this here and change the reference from title to description, which is defined by the RSS specification, and nearly every RSS feed adheres to that. So as you can see here, description, and this is a clean text, but if it were with HTML, you could have shortcuts that will clean for you. But I'll show you how to do this in a later tutorial. So since this is the body text of the article, let's delete bold here, and let's have article text shown as a smaller font than the title. The padding 10 is okay here as well. So let's reload that. And as you can see, there is some article text shown here. However, there is also this big gap between the title and the article body. And this is due to the padding. Since padding 10 adds up to 20 padding. So we'll have left padding here, and copy this, and have right padding the article. So the article only has padding here and padding here, but up here it's only padded by the title. So that looks a bit better. That's basically how to interface with your data provider. I'll be posting more of this tutorial in the future. Thank you for listening and see you soon.